quick introduction so you know who you are speaking to, and then after the introduction, we can do the recording, and then you can start the session. How about that?
Okay, makes perfect sense.
Sounds good. You know me already, so
Yes.
Wayne, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Wayne Miller, coordinator translation localization for Digi, and myself and my team coordinate and kind of manage all the translation projects that Digi does. And that's about it. Jeanette, if you want to go.
Sure. Jeanette Essela. I'm the manager of Internet Marketing Content. I work with Wayne's team on the translation side, as well as the marketing content team and the SEO team.
Okay. My name is Tony O'Dowd, and I'm the founder and chief architect of CantanMT.com, a statistical machine translation platform for high-end enterprise clients.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you guys. Now, Aki has briefed me in anticipation of this presentation today, and he went through some background information, Wayne, on your current use of machine translation and the languages that you're involved in at the moment. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, just to give me some additional background information, so I can position this presentation to maybe address some of the challenges that you face using machine translation today?
Well, we do have some customized in-house MT engines. Those languages that we use are German, French, Italian, Spanish, Japanese, Korean, traditional and simplified Chinese, and Hebrew. We never actually post any raw MT material to our website or use any of that material in a real production project. So all of our MT projects go into post-editing cycle, and we have Aki's team of language leads that are responsible for post-editing that content. So we're always looking for ways to improve as far as our efficiency and get more kind of bang for our investment as far as turnaround times and just being more efficient and addressing problems that come up with MT.
Sure. And your LQR team, your language quality team, is in-house at the moment. Is that correct?
You're right. It's we have contracted language leads through Aki, and they really do the MT post editing, and they also do the quality review of any manual translations.
Okay. I see we just have Travis has just appeared on the screen, as well as Stacy.
Yeah, we can give them a couple minutes. Did that kind of answer what you were looking for?
Yeah, so you're actually building customized MT solutions, and you're using Translator Hub then as your platform for that.
Right, we use the hub, and then we try to train our engines with material that we've done in the past. A lot of obviously we're an electronic component distributor, so it's a lot of technical content.
And you have many years of translation memory assets in your organization, in which you probably use to train those systems on, correct?
Yeah, we do have previous years, quite a few previous years, and of course that's growing over time as well. So we try to keep training those on an ongoing basis.
Sure. Because a lot of our clients are in a similar type environment as yourself. They are a large marketplace platform in which they distribute not only their own products, but in a lot of cases products on behalf of other distributors and so on. And they use machine translation primarily because the amount of words on their site and the content on their site is just extraordinarily large. Would that?
Yeah, that's a problem here too. It's just the amount of content that we have. It's not really practical to translate everything either. So.
Okay, well then, what I was going to cover today, Wayne, was I was going to talk a little bit about what Cantan MT is, talk a little bit about the company ourselves and what we specialize in, who our clients are, and how we work with our clients, and then give you two examples of marketplace clients in which we are actively engaged with and building enterprise level machine translation systems for both batch translation and on-demand translation. And then I was going to proceed to give a technical demonstration of how you would use the platform to build your very, very first engine. Now, does that describe and cover everything that you'd like to get out of this meeting today? Is that hitting the nail on the head?
Sure, I think that'd be a good area to cover.
Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll just talk a little bit about who we are and what we stand for. CantanMT.com, Cantan is a Japanese word. It conveys the concept of simple or easy. That's where the word came from. So Cantan MT is simple MT or easy MT. We're a statistical machine translation system built on the Moses decoder. We're 100% cloud-based, insanely scalable, very inexpensive to operate. But our system is more of a hybrid than a standard statistical machine translation system. We combine both translation memory technology, statistical machine translation technology, and then rules to actually provide the highest quality translation outputs for our clients. And we can do that at high speed, at scale, and at extremely high levels of quality. The actual Cantan platform at the moment, guys, is made up of approximately 480 servers. That's what's running and hosting our service at the moment for our clients worldwide. So it's a vast, vast network of servers providing translation services 24/7, 365 days of the year. And because of our size, the number of servers we've got, we're probably the biggest third-party customizable MT system in the industry today. Now, our vision is to only do three things very well for our clients. It's to allow them to customize their own machines, improve their own engines, and then deploy those engines very, very quickly into their enterprise. Now, we are a very young company. In fact, this company, this idea, this technology, I built this technology about 3 years ago when I sold my previous company and went back to college for a year to retrain myself on what this concept of cloud-based computing was. It was something that was completely new to me. And we only started selling this platform about a year ago. So although we're such a young company, we've been able to grab a significant portion of the market, probably faster than anybody else in the industry because of the technology that we've developed. And although we're such a young company, we've traveled a huge distance in a short time. So at the moment, there's 7,436 engines on our platform. That's the actual number as of yesterday. And so far, the Cantan community, which is thousands of clients and users, have uploaded 97 billion words of training data to our platform. So it just gives you a sense of how big the effort and the activity is around machine translation today. And those words were just uploaded in the last 12 months. So it's a staggeringly large number. And so far, our community, have translated 879 million words. And that number, again, is yesterday's number directly off our stats, our measurement site. So although we're a very young company, we've covered a very, very large distance. Here's an example of some of the clients that we deal with, and it's almost like quantum physics. We deal with the very, very small all the way up to the very, 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 very large. Our single largest client in the world today is Amazon.com. So no matter where you are in the world today, if you buy something in a foreign country on Amazon, it's most likely that that site has been translated with a Cantan machine translation engine, especially in the European market at the moment. And then we deal with a lot of companies in the automotive industry, primarily because the automotive industry has very highly structured content and perhaps has been the pioneers in terms of an industry in using machine translation to translate highly technical content. So Telsa, the latest electric car company from California, are using our technology to translate their technical information about their cars. Toyota, GM, and Volvo do similar things as well. And then we have a wide range of localization service providers who don't have their own internal machine translation technology, and they use our platform to build engines rapidly for their clients as well. So we have quite a wide, diverse range of clients using this platform to deliver statistical machine translation systems to either themselves or to their own enterprise. Now, as I said, we're only 18 months in the industry in terms of engaging commercially in the industry, but we've had a number of very significant technology releases over that time as well. So in Q1 2013, we were the first to bring a cloud-based SMT platform to the market, and we gave that platform out free of charge to everybody worldwide. We didn't charge anybody for it, and we did that as an experiment to see if making an MT platform more accessible, easier to use, faster to deploy engines with, would that resonate with the industry and would they start using it en masse? And that experiment was very successful. It actually led to the commercialization of this platform in the following year, Q1 2014. 2002 and 2013 was an interesting year because we worked with the Center of Next Generation Localization, and we built a technology called Build Analytics. And this allows engine developers, just like your internal language quality team or professional translators internal team, it allows them to build and model their own engines in a highly graphical environment. And by doing that, it means they can build more engines of higher quality and deploy and improve them much quicker. And I'm going to show that technology later on to show you how innovative and how groundbreaking that technology is in terms of engine development. In Q3, we reached 10 billion words, and we were delighted to celebrate that. Looking back now, it seems such a small number because we're at 100 billion words of training data. But in Q3, we also built an API interface to the platform so that our clients could start integrating the platform directly into the heart of their localization process. And that was very key because machine translation is just another technology to improve the agility and the velocity of localization, and of course hopefully lead to cost savings in the long run as well. In Q1 2014, we were the first ever platform to build predictive quality estimation scores. So wouldn't it be really cool if you were able to translate text using a machine translation system, and the system would give you a score between 0 and 100 to say what level of quality that translation is at. So that's equivalent to a fuzzy match score that we've been using for the last 3.5 decades in the localization industry, but it's a quality estimation score for machine translation engines. And that's a significant technology, probably the one technology why we're gathering such a momentum in the industry that our clients are using, because they're using that to predict the quality of translation from their engines. And if they know the quality, they can determine the scope of a project, they can determine the cost of the project, and they can determine how many resources they'll need to complete a project. So it's all about project management and predicting cost and schedule for projects. Q3 2014 was a milestone turning point for the company because Amazon came on board and wanted to deploy Kantan engines at scale. So at the moment, the Amazon cloud, which is a kind of a subset or subnet cloud within the Kantan cloud, consists of about 200 servers and is providing machine translation at scale to the Amazon.com website 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. And in order to build a technology like that, we had to have it scaling automatically depending on the number of requests and the volume of requests coming through. So we built a brand new technology called Kantan Autoscale, which allows you to take any of your engines and deploy it on your own sub-cloud, and it will scale up and down automatically, adjusting the number of servers deployed to meet the demands of your clients. So for the first time ever, you could have on-demand machine translation inherently integrated into your localization and front-end websites. And then Q1 this year, we celebrated our 100 billion words uploaded to our site, and then 800 plus million words translated by our clients as well. So we're a young company, I'll give you that, but we've covered a lot of ground, and hopefully we'll be able to share some of this technology that we've developed in such a short relative period since we started. So what sort of solutions do we have for marketplace vendors? Well, I always find that the best way to explain our solutions is to give you some examples of some of the clients that we worked with that have had great success, and they're all marketplace clients, and they're driven by one goal. They want to translate the site, their content that's on the site, so that they can expand their operation into different markets. This company here is a Norwegian company that wanted to actually expand their marketplace product, which sells everything from shoes to furniture to linen to electronic devices. It's very similar to Amazon, and they wanted to actually expand their reach into the Swedish market. Okay, so that was the challenge that was set to us. So the objectives was to launch the website in 19 days and also translate one of their GL, our product categories, which was beauty products. So that's what they chose as the pilot on this particular project. And that meant we had to translate 780,000 words using machine translation plus post-editing effort from Danish to Swedish. Probably the worst language combination known to man, unless you throw in Hungarian there. But it's not an easy transformation for those two languages. And we had to integrate our MT solution directly into their localization workflow as is. They didn't want to reinvent the wheel. They wanted to maintain their existing workflow. And one of the biggest challenges we had was they had sparse training data. Unlike you guys who have obviously a large investment in translation, which gives you good quality training data, this particular company had very little training data in Swedish. We had no time to test the system. Effectively, the pilot was the live project, and that's kind of something similar to most of our clients. They want everything yesterday because their nature of their business is they move extremely fast, and we have to move at the same speed as our clients, and hopefully sometimes we move faster than them so we can get ahead of their projects and deliver on time. So the results were that in 17 days we translated the 780,000 words. And the project cost savings on that was 62% based on using machine translation versus human translators. And we improved their translator productivity up to 8,000 words per day per linguists, which was fantastic. Previously they were translating and post-editing and revising at approximately 4,000 words per day. So we doubled their productivity for translators. It was a highly scalable solution, and they added an additional 2 languages 3 weeks after this project finished. And we're currently retraining their engines based on post-edits that their editors are sending back into the engine. So when we amass about 10,000 segments, we retrain the engines automatically, and those engines become much more accurate and are constantly pushing the amount of post-editing down, making it much more cost effective to continuously use and improve their machine translation engines. And in fact, you can download this case study directly from our website. In fact, I'll send it to you after this presentation so you can get a look at that as well. So I should mention, by the way, that particular marketplace, Netanderel, is actually the biggest marketplace in that market. Okay, so they're the biggest distributor, general distributor marketplace in the Danish market at the moment. Then we go to the big gorilla. The big gorilla obviously being Amazon. It's the world's biggest marketplace. And the challenge for this project was just all about scale. We used to think big numbers were big numbers until we met the Amazon guys, and they really think in big numbers. It's just phenomenal, the stuff that they have behind this particular site. So the objectives of this project is to translate 6 billion words. Okay, so it even starts off with a big number. And our challenge is to translate product titles, descriptions, and bullets. That's the way every product on their marketplace has those 3 entities or elements associated with it. And the initial project was to focus on 12 out of 24 product categories. So it ranged from PC electronics, home, garden, watches, automotive, sports, jewelry, office products, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that we had to be very good at in this particular engine was we had 284,000 brand names that could not be translated at all. Always had to be maintained with their brand naming convention, spelling and casing and so on. And then we had over 100,000 part number variants. So the part number for an iPhone differs to a part number to a HP laptop, which differs to a Canon camera, which differs all the way down to a desk that you buy for your home office, or a spare part for an automotive car, such as a spark plug. So we had a huge range of part numbers that could not be changed and had to be maintained within the actual translation process as well. The challenge as well was that they had a sparse amount of data. Now, when I say a sparse amount of data, they had about 100 million words per language combination. But considering their engines today are in excess of 1 billion words per engine, their data represented less than 10% of the data that we had to bring to the table in order to build these engines. And they requested 18 engines to be built in a period of 90 days. Okay, so that includes building, improving, testing with LQR, with professional translators, and then moving these engines into production over a 90-day period. So it was a really significant project in terms of scale. How can you build these engines rapidly and get them into production as fast as possible? In terms of the results then, we delivered the 18 engines in 90 days, and that's the reason why I have so much grey hair to this day, because of the enormous pressure on that particular project. We had to source about 8.8 billion words of training data for Amazon in order to build the engines correctly for them. And in the last 3 months, we've translated 312 million words on their site. So we're about 1/3 of a billion words into a project. So that's 1/18 of the way into this particular project. And in order to keep their system up and running 24/7, we had to develop an SRE group here, a site reliability group here, to keep the system running 24/7, 365 days of the year. And we integrated our technology directly into their LQR process, their language quality review process. So while we built the engine, Amazon provided or used their internal linguistic team to actually certify and review the quality of each of the engines over that 90-day project cycle. So the technologies that we had to build for vendors in the marketplace arena is that we give them a platform that they can build the engines themselves, or they can contract us to build the engines on their behalf. We had to build auto-scale technology because a lot of these clients want super fast turnaround, and they want, in some cases, on-demand, real-time translation systems. And they want to customize themselves, and they want to keep them highly secure because they don't want any of their competitors getting access to these engines if they go to the trouble of training them and customize them as well. One of the most significant reasons that we've been able to pick up such large clients in marketplace, the marketplace industry, is because of our NAIR technology. Kantan NAIR stands for Named Entity Recognition. The number one reason for product returns on the Amazon site, and in fact the Netandenim site as well, is incorrect product specifications have been translated incorrectly. So in other words, the measurements that the products come in, or perhaps the weights that the products come in, are actually incorrect. And the Kantan platform can identify those measurement data. They're called named entities. So if I've got a product that has been uploaded in a site using UK measurement data, which is inches, feet, and miles, and I want to sell that in Germany, the Kantan platform actually translates those inches, feet, and miles directly into metric measurements and weights. So that means that a German client can correctly buy a product from a UK vendor. And we're probably one of the only technologies out there that will do that conversion directly. So we inject our own code into the machine translation process to correctly identify and convert those measurements. Then we built a technology called Build Analytics and Kantan Analytics to help our clients monitor the quality of their engines. And if they see the engines are degrading in quality, it's an early indicator that they need to be retrained. And more importantly, we can give them a quality estimation score at a segment level. So for instance, in Amazon today, anything that comes out of our engines in excess of 70% quality goes directly to the site. It does not get post-edited. It goes directly to the site. So they've been able to streamline their release process substantially because of the quality estimation scores that are inherently built into the way this technology works. Now, any questions on that, guys?
So the Kantan analytics and that's kind of similar to a Blue Score, or?
Well, a Blue Score is a comparative score which you will use when you're building an engine. It tells you the fluency of an engine. And it's called a comparative score, Wayne, because we need to compare it against a reference translation provided by a translator. Whereas Kantan Analytics does not use reference scores. It actually calculates how good the translation is coming from the engine based on an algorithm that we created and requires no reference translation. So it's like a fuzzy match score. So we will give you a score between 0 and 100 to tell you how good the translation is. Now we can give you a score of 100%, which means it exactly matches the training data that you use to build your engine. And in that case, you won't need to post-edit that particular segment. If we give you a build on or a Kantan Analytics score of say 50%, well, you'll need to route that in your workflow to a linguistic specialist to post-edit that segment.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, so let me just switch over then, guys, and show you how this platform works. And what we're going to focus on today is we're going to build our very first engine, just to give you a sense of how fast it is to build engines. Because if you can build the engines quicker, you can get them into productions sooner, and that means you can start the whole translation process. And that means you can condense the localization project cycle and start selling in international markets. So what we're going to focus on today is we're going to focus on how project managers use our platform to determine the scope of projects. In other words, if you're going to go through a post-editing cycle, how do you know how long it's going to take? How can you quantify how many segments are of good quality, or of average quality, or are of low quality? And obviously the segments of lower quality will take considerably more post-editing effort. So if you can quantify that, you'll be able to actually predict your costs and your schedule. And we've built technologies to help our project managers do that. Then we're going to talk about our translators. Absolutely vitally important in the development of an engine. We can never build an engine without these guys intricately involved in the actual development and the actual quality testing. And in a lot of cases, our clients today are using the translators to not only check the adequacy, the fluency, and the consistency of the translation, but they are using them to actually build the engines themselves. That's how easy we've made the platform to use. The translators are actually building engines and testing those engines with their skills. And then in addition to that, we have engine developers who need to improve engines and deploy engines. I'm going to talk about the technology we have to get you a single engine when it's ready and deploy it into the cloud so that your enterprise can start using those engines to translate your websites. So I'm just going to switch over here, guys, to the Kantan platform. Can everybody see this on the screen? I've just switched over to the Kantan platform.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so when you log into the Kantan platform, guys, the very first place you're brought to is this screen called My Client Profiles. And a client profile to us is effectively a statistical machine translation engine. It's an SMT engine. And in this particular example here, I have over 100 engines in my account. So I've got a vast number of engines, easy to access and easy to manage in this account. And in fact, the My Client Profile field or screen is pretty much the center of the universe in terms of managing all your engines and deploying your engines into your organization. Now, in this particular example here, I've got an engine called Library ENF4, so I'll just call that up on the screen. So you can see here, it's my active engine because it's bolded in my list. So once I've created an engine, it's very simple to create an engine. You just click on the new wizard here. You give your engine a name. So in this case here, I can actually call it anything I want. And then the next thing you'll do is you're going to select your source language and your target language. And the Kantan platform provides up to 580 language combinations. So we have a vast number of language combinations to choose from. So in this particular example here, I'll select English, US English, and we'll go into French as our target language. Okay, so French. And once you've done that, you just hit the create button. And what that will actually do is it will create an engine for you. Now, of course, the engine hasn't been trained yet. It contains no training data. It's just create the engine name, the name that you're going to use to call or to dereference this engine going forward. So the next thing you need to do then to train the engine is upload your training data. So to do that, you simply click on the training data tab. And you can see in this case here, I have no training data there. So in order to upload training data, you just go to your File Explorer. It's very, very simple. And you click on your training data. I have a folder here called training data. You can just see it there. I'll just move that over there. And to upload training data into your engine, you simply grab the files you want to train the engine with, and you drag them and drop them straight onto the control. And what that is actually doing now, guys, is uploading the training data. So your existing training assets, or perhaps the post edits that you've amassed over the last number of years, you just drag them into this control and upload it. Now, there's 4 types of training data that the Kantan platform provides support for. So obviously, bilingual data is the most important type of training data. So in this case here, I'm building an engine from English into French. So I've got my training data, source language is English, target language is French. That's bilingual data. The second type of training data is monolingual data. And monolingual data is very important because it helps to style and improve the fluency of the translated output. And in this case here, because it's an English-French engine, my monolingual data, of course, will be in French. Okay, so I'll upload French monolingual data to this engine. Again, you just drag the file directly onto this control. The third type of training data is very important. So it's your terminology. And we support a broad number of different types of terminology. So for instance, in the Amazon case, we had over 280,000 brand names. And we introduced those brand names to the engine at this stage. We created a spreadsheet of all the brand names, and we just dropped it onto this control, and that instructed the engine to leave these brand names alone. And that spreadsheet, by the way, was called brands.xlsx. Okay, so that the name tells the engine that these are brand names. But there's also NTAs, non-translatable assets, and then glossary terms that you may want to use to describe aspects of your product or your site and so on. And then the final type of training data that you can use to build your engine is that you can choose one of our stock engines on which to base your engine on. So in this particular example here, I've got English-French. It's an English-French engine. So I have a number of financial engines I can choose. I have a number of IT engines, a number of legal engines, a number of medical engines, and some other generic engines based on social chat and United Nations translation memories as well. So if I don't have enough training data myself, I can actually select additional training data from these stock engines. So in other words, you're using your data to supplement one of our large pre-developed, pre-engineered engines. So by using those 4 types of training data, you can start modeling or building an engine for yourself and your enterprise. And when you're finished uploading the data, to actually build the engine, you simply click the build button. And what that will now do is it will go to the Kantan cloud and start building an engine automatically for you. Now, if you want to see how that engine is performing or to track the progress of that engine, you simply click the My Jobs page here, or you can go into Kantan MT and select My Jobs here. Okay, so I'll just select My Jobs. And you can see here, guys, that now is scheduling to run that job. And this is one of the really cool features of the Kantan platform. Because we have so much hardware behind this platform, behind this website, you're obviously not limited to just building one engine at any one time. you can build dozens of engines at any one time, and you can be translating dozens of files at any one time. It's a multi-tenant, multi-user, multi-threaded application. So you will never be constrained on the hardware that you're using. We will always provision a sufficient hardware for your account usage and so on. Now, any questions on that build process so far?
You know, with your stock training data, is that just previous data from different clients, or how does that get created?
Absolutely not. The data, we will never share our clients' data with anybody else. All the clients' data is fully encrypted and secured on their account. The data that we provide for stock engines comes from reputable third-party companies that are in the business of providing stock engines. So let's just go and look at the library of all the stock engines that we've got. We've about 5 billion words of stock data and stock engines available. So we also list all the language that are available in all of our stock engines. And at the bottom, we give the provenance statement as to where this data has come from, so that our clients are never in any doubt of where this data comes from. So here's legal stock training data sets. There's about 50 of these engines available, and these are taken from the Aquis Communicator corpus, which is a freely available, open source, high quality provider of translation parallel text and so on. So if you upload your data, it is never retasked, republished, or repurposed. It is your data, it remains your data, and we will never use it for anybody else's engine. It's totally secured. In fact, we encrypt it on your drive so that no one else will ever be able to actually access that data as well. Does that answer your question?
Yep, that's good. And then going back to one question on the Kantan analytics, I'm just trying to envision this. The score. So we add our training data, and say we send through a completely new sentence to Digi that's never gone through our system in any way. Would we anticipate the score, the analytics score for that, to be extremely low, like almost close to zero? Or, I mean, is it acting more like a translation memory, or how does the algorithm really work?
Sure. Let me show you what a Kantan analytics environment looks like. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to call up a job. It's because your engine is building there at the moment. So this is a job. It's a test job that we ran for a client called GoDaddy. Now, GoDaddy is one of the largest LSPs in the US. They provide network services and web hosting and so on. So they've run, this is a job here that was run some time ago. And I'll just show you what the Kantan Analytics, it's an interactive environment for project managers. So in this particular project here, they have an engine which is English to Mexican Spanish, okay? And they ran 4 test jobs through this engine, okay? So there's approximately 1,998 segments. So here's the 4 files that they ran through the job. And if I drill down into the individual file, it gives me a readout automatically on how well the engine did translating this particular file. Okay, now remember, there's no reference translation required here. We're just taking unseen translation and we're putting it through an engine that they have previously built. Okay, so let's get curious as to what this report displays. The first thing it displays is these 2 numbers here. Can you see this here? This Kantan total recall is 36%. Kantan MT is 64%. So what's total recall? Well, because the primary data type used to build a statistical engine is actually a translation memory, it's a bilingual file, it's actually a translation memory. When you train an engine on the Kantan platform, we build you a translation memory as well as a statistical machine translation engine. And that translation memory is called total recall. Okay? So in this particular example here, the project manager is being told that 36% of the words has come through a translation memory lookup, and 64% of the words has come through a statistical machine translated output. In other words, we have statistically generated that translation. This particular graph distribution here tells me where the translation has come from. So we have approximately 1,054 words, 23% of the job, have been matched at 100%. Then we have a small amount of words that have been matched with the quality range of 85 to 89%. And then the bulk of the translation is in the quality range of 70 to 84%. So I guess the question now that jumps off the page here is, how do we know which text is coming from Total Recall, and how do we know which texts are coming through statistical machine translation? Well, the cutoff point, believe it or not, is 85%. So if you give me an unseen segment, Wayne, the very first thing I do is I check to see if I can get you a high hit in your translation memory. And if that returns that we found a segment that is greater than 85% on the fuzzy match score, we will return that segment as its suggested translation. Okay? So anything on this graph here, which is greater than 85%, which is here, here, and here, is actually coming from Total Recall. It's just been found in your translation memory, your training data. Everything below it, these four graphs here, is coming from Kantan MT. And what's interesting in this engine here is that the bulk of this translation, the statistically generated translation, 62% of it, 2,820 words, is in the range of 70 to 84%, which means this translation will require only minor to small post-editing. If we had the bulk of the translation in the range of 50 to 69%, it would require a little bit more post-editing. And then in these two ranges here, it will require medium to high levels of post-editing. Okay? So straight away, we've now been able to take a project and see that this engine is performing very well on this content. In fact, we would expect to have only a medium to low amount of post-editing during the post-editing project here. Now, if you look down here at the Kantan Analytics table here, this tells you how many segments have been matched in the equivalent, or the relevant rather, quality ranges. It gives you the word counts in each of these quality ranges, the number of characters and tags and placeholders. Now, you guys are veterans of the localization industry, and you probably immediately think, oh my God, that looks so much like a fuzzy match report. Well, it does, and it is, and it's designed specifically to look that way, because we don't want you guys to have to retrain your project managers when you're using machine translation technology. We want it to fit into your current way of working. So we give you this table that matches the way CAT tools such as Travis, MemoQ, WordFast, and Alchemy Catalyst actually display their fuzzy match reports. So what use is this report to a project manager? Well, because he knows now the quality of each of the segments that the engine is working on, he can actually introduce a tiered pricing for post-editing content. So for instance, 100% match doesn't need to be post-edited. It's carbon copy what was in the training data, no charge there. 85 to 89%, probably a small charge because it's very close to what was in the training data. 70 to 84%, I'll be able to be charged a little bit more there because there's more post-editing required there. And in this particular project here, you can see there's very little of the lower quality levels. So there's almost no cost there as well. So by using this report, he can predict his costs. He can predict how long it'll take in terms of the schedule. And more importantly, he can actually predict the resources that would be required to actually complete this project as well. Does that address that question, Wayne?
Yep, I think so.
Now, one of the really cool features of this technology as well, guys, is that if you're using an existing translation memory management system, or GMS, globalization management software, that uses XLIF files, if you translate these XLIF files on the Kantan platform, we embed these scores at the segment level for every job. So if you give me 100 segments that need to be translated, each segment will be scored with a value of 0 to 100. And when you open these segments in your CAT tool, your favorite CAT tool, where you currently see fuzzy match scores, you will now start to see the Kantan quality estimation scores, which means you can tell your translators to ignore all 100% or everything above 85 to 100% and only post edit in the range of 70 to 84%. You can filter the files based on these scores, which means you can give tremendously accurate direction to your translators and your post editors when you're post editing. And by doing that, it means you're in more control, and our clients can save significantly more time and effort, and more importantly, money in post editing projects. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so this is what Kantan Analytics is. But this is great for project managers. It's also great for translators because they see these quality estimation scores for every segment that's machine translated. But one of the other things about building engines is we need to be able to track how good an engine is during its build process. And to do that, we've built a technology called Build Analytics. And this will really be powerful, because what we can do today, guys, is we can get our existing translation team involved in building engines very, very rapidly. So let's just take one of my sample databases here. This is a library ENF4. This engine was built earlier on today. And you can see that I've got this Build Analytics button appears once the engine is built. So if I click on this, this brings me to an interactive development environment. And Wayne, you asked a question earlier on, what's a blue score? Is Kantan Analytics like a blue score? Well, this is the environment where we calculate the blue score, the F measure score, there's your blue score there, and the TER score during the development of your engine. And why are these scores very important? Well, they're very important because they give you a sense that when you train an engine or add in post edits to an engine, or maybe take one of our stock engines, it gives you a sense of how that will impact the quality of the output of your engine. So for instance, the F measure score tells me how many words I've calculated correctly in the target translation. So the higher this value is, the more accurately the vocabulary of the engine matches the content you're translating. So this is what's known as a recall and precision measurement. And what we aim to do is achieve an F measure score in excess of 70% before we would consider this engine production ready. Now, it's the same with blue score. Blue is similar to F measure, but blue takes into account the order in which the words are arranged in the target translation. So that's like a mathematical definition of fluency. It's probably one of the closest you'll get to the definition of fluency. And the higher the score is, the more fluent the output of the engine. And in this particular example here, it's 69%. And we would not consider an engine production ready until we had a blue score in excess of 60% or very close to 60%. It is language specific, but most languages would have to achieve 60% or more before we would even consider looking at deploying that engine in a production environment. And then the last automated score we create is a TER score, which predicts the amount of post-editing that's most likely going to have to be actioned on the output of this engine. And because we want to do as little post-editing as possible, our post-editing, our TER score, has to be as low as possible. And in fact, what you're looking for is a TER score less than 40%. And what's really cool about this engine here, look at the distribution of that TER score there. 64.6% is less than 40% on the TER value, which means that the majority of this output will require little or no post-editing. So it's about a small to medium level of post-editing, which means this engine is pretty good. We're pretty happy with the quality of this engine. Now, one of the quickest way of improving the quality of an engine is to focus on terminology and to focus on unknown words. Wouldn't it be really cool if the engine could tell you what words it didn't understand? And by looking at that list of unknown words, you would be able to get translators to provide translation for those unknown words and rapidly improve your engine. Well, we do that for you automatically. That's what's known as a gap. A gap is really our definition of an unknown word. It's a gap in a phrase table. So if you click on the gap analysis tab here of Build Analytics, we actually display all the unknown words that the engine has. Okay, and in some cases these words could be false positives, in some cases they are real words. And by giving this, you can download this this gap analysis report, you can give it to a professional translator, and they will be able to provide immediate training data to improve the gaps in your phrase table. And make no mistake, if time is of the essence and you want to rapidly improve an engine, focusing on getting as small number of gaps or as a minimum number of gaps in your phrase table as possible, or unknown words, is the surest way of actually achieving that. Now, engine developers use this, but also professional translators use this environment, because if they're looking at why an engine is performing badly, wouldn't it be really cool if the engine told them what's gone wrong in the heart of the engine? So I've just clicked on my tare score tab here, and we're looking for a tare score of 40% or less. So if I actually click on a segment here, so this is my test segment. This is the reference translation from a professional translator, and this is my translation from Kantan NT, and it's telling me that there's a small amount of editing here. It's 33%. So if I actually drill into that segment there, it actually tells me what's the problem with that segment, and you can see it very, very clearly. You can see that there is a space between the colon and the actual bracket there, and of course in France they don't want any spaces preceding colons, so that would be rated as a high stylistic error. And you can see straight away that we've identified that straight away and scored it at 33%. It's a small post edit, but nonetheless, it is a post edit. But you can see how we can determine this, and we can actually tell the translator where the error in the translation is. And by analyzing this report, we can go back into the engine and improve the output of the engine very, very rapidly. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you in build analytics as well is that when you're building lots of engines and you've got a lot of engines in production, wouldn't it be really cool if you could do some version control on the engine? And wouldn't it be really better if we could make that version control system highly graphical, because we live and work in a graphical environment? Well, for every engine that you work on in the Kantan platform, we create a timeline for it. And what the timeline does is it tracks every activity that you've done to an engine since it was born, since you started working on it. And by looking at these steps, you can chronologically see everything you've done to an engine to get it to a level of production. And if you're happy with a particular engine, so here's an example here. This was a build that I did today at 25:3. This was a test build I did earlier on today. It gives me my F measure, my blue score, my tare score, the word counts, the files that were added to the engine for the purposes of training. If I'm happy with this engine, I can take a snapshot of that engine and stick it into my archives. And this is my version control system. I can now put version control on my engines, and I can still develop this engine and improve it. But if I ever make an error and degrade the performance of the engine, I can restore the engine directly from my archives. You can see I have quite a number of archives here. I can pick an engine and actually restore it. So for the first time ever, we have the ability to version control our machine translation engines, which makes us very, very, I guess, agile and systematic in our approach to building machine translation engines. Now, guys, is there any questions on that so far?
Are we good, Wayne?
Yep, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back in then to our dashboard. This is where we manage all of our engines. So you can see it's very, very easy to manage lots of engines. You can build lots of engines. You can translate lots of documents and so on, all at the same time. So how do you now take your engine and launch it into production mode? Well, believe it or not, it's done automatically for you. As soon as you build an engine, it is instantaneously available for production work. You don't have to go and deploy it. There's no 2 or 3 day wait as it's copied over into the cloud. It is immediately available to you. So if I want to translate documents with this engine here, I simply click on Client File, and I drag and drop my files into this control, and I hit the Translate button. And that will immediately translate those files using that engine. So you don't have to go through a deployment process. It's just immediately available on the Kantan platform. However, for power clients at the enterprise level that want lots of servers running the engine because they need lots and lots of capacity, we have a technology called Kantan Autoscale. And what Kantan Autoscale allows you to do is to take your engine and deploy it permanently into your own cloud. So in other words, you can actually click on Kantan Autoscale here. I can select my engine that I want to deploy. In this case here, I'm going to deploy my French engine. Now I can tell Kantan that I want a minimum of 5 servers up to 10 servers running that engine. So it'll scale up and down automatically in terms of the capacity that it's required for. And I can actually deploy that over a number of data centers. Now, why would I deploy it over a number of data centers? Well, it's for fault tolerance. Supposing you had a situation where one of our data centers went offline. Well, if your engine is in that data center, your engine is going to go offline. So we give you the ability to select up to 3 different data centers so that if 2 of them go offline, at least one of the data centers is still available to you. So it's for fault tolerance. And this is how we were able to build engines for the NetHandle LN client as well as Amazon, because they need their engines with no questions asked. They need their engines up 24/7, 365 days of the year. And when you're finished with that, you just simply select the launch button. And what that will do is it'll do all the heavy lifting and actually deploy your engine at scale directly on the Kantan cloud. And then you can start firing translation requests at it. Now, we have a lot of connectors built for the Kantan environment, because although I've showed you the user interface here, the majority of our clients don't use this interface. They use it for building engines, they use it for perhaps running Kantan analytics, but in production, they like to access the engines through the API or some of the connectors that we have. So we have connectors for, I think it's half a dozen or more CAP tools, ranging from World Server to Trados to MemoQL to Alchemy Catalyst, MemCloud, and so on and so forth. And we're always adding in new connectors on a regular basis as well. So it's a very flexible API or software developer kit to enable you to do that. Now, guys, we've covered an awful lot today, and we don't normally cover this amount in such a short presentation, but I'll now open the floor perhaps to some questions that you may have, or maybe some clarifications that you might be seeking.
Tony, thank you very much. I have one question related to this API connector. What would be the percentage of your existing clients using API and connecting to their translation management system?
100%.
Okay.
They're almost all doing it that way. So they use our platform here that I'm showing you today for engine development, improvement, and deployment. But in production, they are generally firing translation requests to their on cloud-based engines.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So a good example of that, Aki, would be, say, Getty Images. Okay, istock.com. Their website is translated with Kantan technology. It's another one of these marketplace companies. So they upload about 26,000 new photographs to their site every single day. That's the level of activity on that particular site. And each of those photographs has a title and a description. So a title is limited to about 1,000 characters, and it's used for engine searching, and it's less fluent but very vocab rich. That's the way we describe the titles. And then the descriptions tend to be quite fluent. It's a description of an engineer on a building site with a hammer in his hand. It's that type of description, right? So it's highly fluent, highly technical. And for every one of those 10,000 new photographs, they're using a Kantan engine to immediately translate that and update their search engine. Okay, so they're not actually submitting a file for translation. They're actually using our API, which is built into their workflow. They have a system called Project Director. It's provided by translations.com. And our product is integrated into Project Director so that everything is translated real time as it updates the iStock database.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on that?
No, I don't think so. And thank you. That's very, very informative.
Okay, well, thank you very much, guys, for your attention today. I appreciate the time you've taken out to have a look at our new technology from a new company. And I hope we could maybe move this at some stage. I know you're not looking for a vendor at the moment, but perhaps we've given you some food for thought. Perhaps we could have some technology here that would be of interest to you as you mature and continuously develop your machine translation process.
Great. Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Take care.